Hi there, everybody. Happy Friday. First week of the year's done, or almost done, and I hope you've got a good week. I hope you're back in the swing of things. And I'm going to finish my 12 days of content sharing challenge that I was set by Naeem Arif at NAC Consulting. Feels like a lot longer than 12 days, and I definitely feel like I'm in the swing of things, so it certainly worked from that point of view. I'm going to finish it on the topic of nutrition and on diet. And again, it's stimulated by a program that seems to have really got under my skin, the How to Lose Weight Well program on Channel 4 on Tuesday night. And part of that, there was a big sort of eureka moment when they interviewed a scientist who is able to prove for the first time ever, apparently, that human beings respond differently to the same types of foods. Well, again, forgive my French, but I just wanted to scream at the TV, you know, no shit, Sherlock. You know, why are we just finding this out? And okay, it may be that scientists are only just proving it in a double-blind study in a lab, but there is really rock hard science, solid science going back to 1934 that has proven this link. So this is not new stuff. And to be honest, most of you out there probably know this as well, because you probably realize that one way that somebody eats may not suit you. And, you know, your friend might have done this diet or that eating plan and you've tried it and it's not worked. So, you know, and quite honestly, my empirical evidence and my empirical data, you know, goes to show that any one diet will only really suit about a third of people. And so, but I want to take you back in time to 1934 and introduce you to a dentist called Dr. Weston A. Price, who practiced in Ohio over in America. And at that time, he noticed in his patients that a lot of his patients were suffering with increasing levels of dental decay and increasing levels of dental deformity. He also noticed that there was, you know, increased sort of craniofacial issues. Now, that's basically a posh word to describe everything that goes on between the face and the head. And there's something called the rule of thirds, which is kind of cool. Whereas if you put your thumb and your index finger together, that should give you the distance between your chin and your nose and your the bridge of your nose, and then your nose and your hairline, or in my case, where my hairline used to be. So, you know, and that's basically the idea being with that, that's how the face should be developed and how the face should fit, so that there's enough space in each third for the sort of everything to work. You'll notice for me, my middle third is a little compressed. So again, you might find that, you know, if that's the case for you, you're more prone to nasal congestion, you're more prone to sinus issues or other bits and pieces like that. You might snore a bit more than anybody else. So these are all signs. And anyway, I'm going to take you back to Dr. Price. And he, fortunately, was a relatively wealthy man, so set about studying indigenous populations and their health. And he started off on the equator with the Quechua Indians. These are the group of people, if you ever look into them, there's a great book called Born to Run, I think it is, which talks about how they run ultra marathons into their 80s and 90s. They literally tie bits of old tire onto their feet with string, and then they set off running. They actually get absolutely leathered for the entire night the night before, drink themselves stupid, get up in the next morning and run and just keep going. And they do this into their 70s, 80s, and sometimes 90s. So they're a very fit, healthy tribe. And he looked at this tribe, he looked at their diet, and he found that their diet was full of lean meats, only small meats, lots of vegetable oils, lots of fruits, lots of carbohydrates, and things like that. And he then looked at their health and found that they had absolutely zero craniofacial issues at all. They didn't have a word for things like cancer, you know, and people died when they were old. They literally sort of, you know, kept running, and then when they got old, they died, and they generally died about in their 80s or 90s. And so he put the two together and thought, well, there we go, that makes sense. I've got a healthy diet on one hand and I've got a healthy people on the other. So, you know, he could have stopped there. Fortunately, he didn't, and he carried on. And in another video, I will tell you the story of what he found with the Aborigines and the inland Aborigines versus the coastal Aborigines. But he ended up on the polar ice caps, and he looked at the Inuits, and he, again, looked at their craniofacial development and found that they had perfect craniofacial development, didn't lose teeth, had no dental decay or anything like that. He also found they were a very healthy tribe. They had a slightly shorter life expectancy than the Quechua Indians, but they carried on working. They carried on working all the way through their life. They didn't have a word for seasonal affective disorder. They just got on with things. They didn't have a word for cancer or coronary heart disease or any of these, metabolic diseases that riddle, so-called more advanced societies. And they looked at their diet, and their diet was 98% meat and blubber. Okay, and this is all well researched. He wrote up his research in 1938 in a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's been around for years. It's widely accepted. Not many people will sort of castigate it at all. But he found that their diet was 98% meat and blubber. The only carbohydrates they ever ate, okay, was the seaweed they could harvest from under the sea ice in the very, very short summer months, or that they could get from the stomachs of the whales they caught. So the problem we've got there is they've got two equally healthy sets of human beings and two opposingly eating plans. So what's all that about? How does that work? Well, the fact of the matter is we are all biochemically unique. Okay, we know we're genetically unique, but the news today is that we are all biochemically unique. And we all fit on a spectrum from an Indian at this side to an Eskimo at this side. And somewhere in that spectrum is your ideal eating pattern. And that's one of the things we do at JT Ethos, is to help people understand where they fit in that. We tell them that story. I've told that story many, many times. The point is you're biochemically unique, and you need to find out what works for you. And again, this also goes to explain why people will do brilliantly on the Atkins diet, and the Atkins diet will say they're the best thing since sliced bread. And then you can look at other diets that are purely carbohydrate based, vegan diets, vegetarian diets, and they'll tell you they're the best thing since sliced bread. And they'll show you people, and they will prove it, and this, that, and the other. And they're not lying. The fact is they're not looking at a whole spectrum of the population, and they're only promoting the people that work for them. So it may help a few people. There may be a few people going, now I get things once they've heard this. I hope so. You're very welcome to drop me some comments and to leave your opinions on the feed. But like I say, today my gift for you of a Friday is you are all biochemically unique, and the perfect eating plan is out there for you. It's somewhere on that spectrum. You've just got to find it. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend, everybody.